Welcome back. Elaine, I want to talk about the Chinese property sector. It's on shaky ground right now, right? A lot of the developers are facing defaults. How did this start? What went wrong?
Yeah, great question. So we really have to roll back a few decades to understand the roots of this problem. But the property market in China has been pretty much in a boom cycle since really since the 90s and moving into the 2000s. But it works in a slightly different way than our property markets here in North America. So the first thing to understand is that for Chinese citizens, owning a home is a very big deal. It's highly intertwined into society and being able to move forward. So Chinese citizens are more likely to put their money into property than, for example, buying stocks and bonds. Okay, so when the property market opened up to citizens, going on 3 decades ago, there was a huge influx of Chinese savings into the market. Typically, you prepay a certain amount for housing in China. So you put down a pretty large payment, and then property developers move forward and build homes. The challenge is that property developers over the years got into a cycle of being over leveraged. So basically borrowing too much money from banks in China. And the whole system started to crack. And we saw that in a big way in 2021 with Evergrande, a major property developer that basically ran out of cash. And so projects were not finished. So it meant that citizens had put money into housing that was actually not being finished. And that then started a wave of protests and concerns, a crackdown by Beijing to limit the amount that developers could actually borrow, but that caused this cash crunch. Okay,
Yeah.
so it just created a mess, and the real challenge is that so much of the GDP is, tied up in the property and infrastructure sector. It's
20%. I was reading
Yeah,
20%. Yeah.
exactly. That's much higher than what we have here in the US or in Canada. And so there's a tremendous amount of vulnerability associated with that. And China has to be careful about how they deal with this, because if they continue to pump more debt into the system to help these developers get out of this cash crunch, it's really just exacerbating the problem. So the underlying dynamics of this challenge are going to be with the Chinese economy for a long time.
Yeah. So I guess it begs the question, right? What sort of impact? I mean, if your property sector, if your economy is so skewed to the property sector, what sort of impact could that have on us in North America? Or perhaps it's already happening.
Yeah, it's a great question. This is a little bit different than the impact, for example, of the 2008 housing crash in the U.S., where the problem was that citizens couldn't actually pay their mortgage. That's not really the problem in China. People have the money to pay. It's that they don't trust that the system is going to deliver. But a lot of that liability is with the property developers and then with the banks that hold all this debt. So I think most of the impact will actually be within China, but there could be and probably will be an impact on slowing consumer demand, because consumers are losing faith in the system. So they're less likely to purchase more homes, more cars. So to the extent that economies like the U.S. and Canada are tied into demand for certain exports, we may feel that. So it's likely to be very sector specific, as opposed to the kind of contagion that we saw in 2008 from the U.S. housing crisis. But slowing demand for exports, coming from the U.S. and Canada is something that we need to watch.
Yeah, definitely, especially as you said, any company that is vulnerable to the Chinese market that depends on sales there. You know, you look at say the Apples, even some of the high high
Yeah.
goods or the luxury goods. I know in my time at CNBC, we focused a lot on that. All right, we're gonna take another quick break, and I want to get your thoughts on the dependence on China and some of the lessons learned. We'll be right back.